the city no longer possesses form. Concrete outlines evaporate, and the shadows of skyscrapers cling to pedestrians' thoughts like vapors of memory. Streets are nerves, traffic lights flashes of synapses. We move through them as consciousness flows like blood. Walking is a prayer dissolving the self from solid to liquid, and that prayer seeps into the pavement as anonymous ripples. Faces are but icebergs of symbols. At digital windows, time collapses horizontally, and words flow down communication networks as particles. The air seen and melting become equivalent, and perception takes the form of liquid dreams. The city's drifters are those who have abandoned their boundaries. They possess no address, existing only as flow. This anonymous mass submerges itself in the currents of information, endlessly reflecting as fragments of an infinitely modulated now. When every face melts into the space between seer and seen, the city itself begins to dream, as a fluid consciousness, having lost the ethics of solidity. The faceless city becomes a sea that breathes slowly. At the sea's bottom, without fixed forms, they caress each other's shadows of thought. On nights when streetlights melt and slide down streets like rivers, the faceless city quietly abandons its contours. Building corners become sediment of memory. Glass melts past faces to breathe new dampness. Pedestrians' clasp translucent resumes to their chests, spilling as droplets of surface tension. Cold vending machines forget heat, and advertising words cling together like clay. People's voices become pipes, trying to flow back up through the sewers to the sky. The city attempts to become liquid and reclaim its flow, but the river bends in an unfamiliar direction, and symbols swim like fish. Drifting is the rearrangement of memory, the engineering of forgetting. Here, history does not form layers, it permeates each other. Old poetry lines dissolve into new train doors. Future slogans take root in alleyway rubble. Facelessness isn't the absence of a face, but a state where faces flow, where everyone is permitted to borrow a portrait for just an instant. One cannot resist the tide, but one can change form without resistance. Buildings that have lost their shape attempt to recrystallize, their inhabitants watching their formation as accomplices. Language becomes viscous, meaning strings together like continuous droplets, nurturing new metaphors one by one. The end point of drifting remains absent. Arrival is always deviation, the destination perpetually undefined. Yet within that indefiniteness, I decipher the city's desolation, pluck bubbles of memory to juxtapose past and future. The city ceases its narration, becoming a mirror reflecting us in our facelessness. The mirror is liquid. Touch it and fingerprints spread. A new face emerges. Finally, a single drop falls. The city blends into yet another current, and we, as humble navigators, dampen our garments. Drifting never ends. Drifting is writing. Written words evaporate, someday becoming rain in another alleyway. The asphalt skin grows hot, mirages dance at the boundary between substance and illusion, and the concrete skeleton no longer believes in its own rigidity. The proper noun we called city has now spilled from its container of meaning, freed from the gravity of definition, reduced to mere phenomenon. Every face stripped of its unique story, dissolved by acid rain called anonymity, a crowd of featureless faces, their contours lost. The individual ceases to solidify into a single point called self, diffusing into the vast ocean called statistics. I am you, you are him, and he is merely a pixelated silhouette. We barely secure the probability of our own existence by confirming each other's absence. When night falls, the liquefaction accelerates further. The neon neural network shorts from excessive signals, becoming a torrent of color rushing through the veins of the streets. Red for desire, blue for resignation, yellow for fleeting frenzy. They blend into a soup of beautiful yet poisonous hues. Within it, we wander aimlessly like drunken revelers or sleepwalkers. Words disintegrate into particles of sound. Dialogue degenerates from an exchange of meaning into a resonance of noise. Whispers of love, screams of hatred, ambulance sirens. All glide across the surface of consciousness as equivalent sounds. Even memory is no longer an immovable anchor. It is sediment drifting in this liquefied spacetime. Yesterday's memories of me blur with someone's social media post. A page from a history book fuses with a scene from last night's movie. We fill the voids in our hearts with borrowed nostalgia, patching our futures with the wreckage of others' dreams. The myth of a solid I crumbles, and consciousness becomes a fragile mosaic of countless fragments gathered together.